From the wastelands of the internet, I have returned. Returned to give you news. News of the week. News of the day. News you probably didn't hear about. News you probably didn't care about. It is I, the Nomad. How are you guys doing today? Hope that you're all having a good day. There's a lot of news. A lot of news. Welcome, Jacob. Welcome. I've got a lot of stuff to get through today. A whole plethora of news. So let's get started. We'll start, as we always do, in the European theater. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the European theater starts with Fortress Europe. Great Wall of Europe. Europe is planning a 15,000-mile defense line protecting Poland and the Baltics from Putin's World War III invasion threat. Europe is looking to build a giant 1,500-mile defense line to protect itself from a chilling Vladimir Putin invasion. Poland and the Baltics are planning to create a 2.2 billion pound blockade to keep Russia from advancing through the continent as the threat of World War III looms. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Great Wall of Europe. Okay. The brave Allied nations revealed the plans on Wednesday as as they asked the European Union for help with the project. Leaders from Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia all claim a protective blockade is essential to protect Europe from a dangerous Moscow. All right, Putin is ramping up his military threats among other worrying activities as he repeatedly tells the West to avoid getting involved in his war in the Ukraine. Leaders from the four countries who put together the plan described the need for extra protection as dire and urgent. They added all 27 EU states will be protected by the blockade, including over 450 million people. And here is the map, all right, that they're using. You see Russia and its proxies, okay? So they're going to wall this in over here, and they're going to wall all the way down, and then stop at the Ukrainian border. Um, Walls work. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. Walls do work. But if you think that this is going to stop Putin by recreating the fabulous Maginot Line, you're just kidding yourself. This is no more than a freaking fantasy. Now, I feel for the Baltic nations, and I feel for Poland, because they're not exaggerating the fact that there's a threat there, and it exists. Okay, I I don't want people to think that I minimize somehow. All right, Russia's threat to them. Russia presents a great threat to these nations because this is something they have fought over for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's nothing new. To ignore history would be to sit up there and say, oh, Russia doesn't have any plans in these areas. Bullshit. That's just ignorance of history. But this is not going to prevent World War III if the balloon goes up. If World War III happens, This is not going to prevent it. This is not going to stop it. This is how people get complacent. The Maginot Line. Telling the European Union to sit up there and pay for it. The Europeans don't care. Sorry, I hate to put it to all you people out there that are oh, we gotta save the Ukraine. Why aren't you saving the Ukraine? How many people saw this story? Zelensky says preparing plan to end war with Russia. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday said he was drawing up a comprehensive plan for how Kiev believes the war with Russia should end. There's no public talks ongoing between Russia and the Ukraine, and based on public statements by Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin, all right, the two sides appear as far apart as ever when it comes to terms for a potential peace settlement. Zelensky hosted a major international summit in Switzerland earlier this month, in which Russia was not invited to rally support for Ukraine's position. It's very important for us to show a plan to end the war that will be supported by the majority of the world, aka the United States, Zelensky said on Friday. This is the diplomatic route we are working, he said at a press conference in Kiev alongside Slovenian President Natasha Prick-Musar. All right, more than 90 countries sent leaders and senior officials to the two-day summit with Zelensky in Switzerland. Yeah, so they basically had a 2-day freaking ski festival in Switzerland. The majority of whom agreed to a final communique that stressed the need for Ukraine's territorial integrity to be respected in any statement. But some key countries that attended, like India, do not agree, and others, like Russia's ally China, boycotted the summit in protest at Moscow not being invited. Ukraine has repeatedly said Russia must pull its troops out of its internationally recognized territory, including the peninsula of Crimea that Moscow annexed in 2014, before peace talks can start. Not going to happen. Okay? Right now, Zelensky is having a bad time keeping a lid, okay, on what's been happening internally in his country as they try to draft freaking people and draft men especially and send them to the front lines to try and stop the Russians from slowly gobbling up territory, which they continue to do. There is no possible way. How many people, all right, were expecting? I'm serious about this. Everyone, it wasn't that long ago when they were talking about how the great Ukrainian offensive is going to push Russia back off of everything. That was a year ago, folks. A year has passed since they were claiming that they would start a new offensive against Russia, and and a new offensive hasn't materialized. Why? It's not because of a delay of weapons being sent from the United States. Okay. Didn't the Germans just go around find gaps that are in World War II? We okay. The reason World War II is the reason that France and became a laughing stock and a joke, all right, as surrender monkeys. Okay. And the reason is because of how nonsensically, and it was nonsensical. I don't want people to misunderstand this. How nonsensically the French gave up when the Germans flanked them. The French soldiers who were actually participating, all right, in the defense of Dunkirk, okay, were some of the bravest all right, and staunchest, fighters, all right, that France had, and they did, and if it wasn't for their sacrifice, and it was considerable, all right, the miracle of Dunkirk would never have taken place. But their government threw in the towel. Threw in the towel. I don't think people understand. You had a this is why they're called surrender monkeys, because their government immediately surrendered. They screamed, ah, oh, we're done. Boom. And you had a government that was terrified of sacrifice, of the war. They had promised something that they were not prepared to actually engage in. And Hitler capitalized on that. Different situation, okay, as to what's going on right now. Except the European Union are a bunch of surrender monkeys too. Ursula von der Leyen is a surrender monkey. She'll roll like a cheap hat and run for the friggin' hills with her ill-gotten gains like the pig she is the moment things would get serious. They talk a good game, but they don't actually put up. The only ones who've actually given real material support, real support to the Ukrainians at the front has been the United States and Great Britain. And that's it. The crap that France sent, they don't even put on the front lines because it's that worthless in this kind of a battle scenario. France sent them crap. Germany sent them crap. And Germany has no intention of freaking fighting this war. They have no intention of getting involved. EU is too busy filling their countries with foreigners. There's a lot of truth to that. I swear the past 4 years felt like playing. We'll get to some of that stuff. Bolivian general arrested after apparent failed coup attempt as the government faces a new crisis. Led by a top general vowing to restore democracy, armored vehicles rammed the doors of Bolivia's government palace Wednesday in what the president called a coup attempt and then quickly retreated, the latest crisis in the South American country facing a political battle and an economic crisis. Within hours, the nation of 12 million people saw a rapidly moving scenario, rather, in which troops seemed to take control of the government of President Luis Acre, all right, or Arx, okay, I cannot pronounce his name, all right. He vowed to stand firm and named a new army commander who immediately ordered the troops to stand down. Soon the troops pulled back, along with a line of military vehicles, ending the rebellion after just 3 hours. Hundreds of his supporters then rushed to the square outside the palace, waving Bolivian flags, singing the national anthem, and cheering. Soldiers' retreat was followed by the arrest of the army chief Juan Jose Zuniga, all right, after Attorney General opened an investigation. Government Minister Eduardo de Castillo said that in addition to Zunginia, a former Navy Vice Admiral Juan Arnez Salvador was taken into custody. Former Navy Vice. Let's do a little thing here. Shall we go, folks? Let's do a little Google searching here, and type in map Bolivia Bolivia. Is it just me? You can somebody tell me where the vice admiral was sending the ships. Please, you have a vice admiral. Really? In a landlocked country, you had a vice admiral. Am I missing it up there? Late Wednesday, Defense Minister Edmund Novella said everything is now under control, surrounded by the new military chiefs appointed by Arce. All right, Novello said that the Bolivia had lived a failed coup. The apparent coup attempt came as his country has faced months of tension and political fights between Arce and his one-time ally and former leftist president Evo Morales over control of the ruling party amid a severe economic crisis. Okay. The the problem in Bolivia is that it remains massively corrupt. It's corrupt from one side to the other. The fact that you had a position of vice admiral in a landlocked country should clue people in. And I'm going to say one more thing. Okay? We've seen a number of failed coup attempts lately. And they're going to I expect them to continue because that's the way the world actually exists. Okay, but I will make the statement now. The problem with the coup attempts that you're starting to see here are, and the reason they failed, and do not get me wrong, I'm not advocating for a coup attempt. Okay, is if you take control of an area, you've got to cut the head off of the snake. If you don't, okay, the coups fail. When the resistance or rebellious officers in Germany, all right, rebelled against the Nazi leadership under the Operation Valkyrie. People talk about, right? Lots of movies been done on it and everything else. But the biggest problem that they had is when they started to seize power, they didn't immediately go on an execution spree of high-ranking Nazi officials that had fallen into their hands, including, folks, Joseph Goebbels, who they placed under house arrest but didn't execute immediately. Now, I'm not saying that Operation Valkyrie would have succeeded anyway, because the plot against Hitler failed. You got to remember that Hitler was blown up, but he didn't die in the attempt due to the bomb not being powerful enough to kill everybody in the room. And everyone thought that he would. Right? Everyone expected that bomb would be able. Anybody that was in that room was going to end up dead. And it turned out that almost nobody died. There was, I think, it was one or two people died at most. In a room full of the operational heads of the military and Nazi regime. Stauffenberg, if he was truly committed to the plot, should have planted the bomb. When the bomb went off, he should have walked in there and made sure everybody was dead. He would have been killed. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind that Stauffenberg was going to get killed no matter what. Right? He had to be willing to sit up there and take that kind of a risk. The fact that he didn't is what allowed that to succeed. But in this case, it's the same thing. You smash through the presidential palace, you capture everything, you surround it, and then you fail to sit up there and go forward. It was a very foolish attempt. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking sides on this. They're all corrupt there. You want to end corruption? Tell me how you're going to do that with leftists. You will never, never end corruption with leftists because they have no principles. They're not honest people. Okay? Growing concern over Ukraine aid as Orban takes over the EU presidency. Many are raising concerns over the EU's financial and military aid to the Ukraine as Russia-friendly Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban takes the helm of the U.S. presidency Monday. Orban is certainly a pro-Putin guy, but he also knows he needs the EU, said Nicholas Tenzar, the guest professor at Sciences Pro Paris. All right, adding that the EU leaders have previously secured negotiation ascension talks, all right, for the Ukraine. All right, you're not getting anything from these people, though. They talk a good game, right? Orban is just what Orban's going to do is he's going to sit up there and put the brakes on all immigration into the EU. Smoking crater, formerly known as Hollywood. What the heck are you guys? I've been missing something. What are you guys doing in the chat? Oh my god, you leave the chat for just a little bit. Oh my god, all sorts of weird things going on. Anyway. You mean Hollywood lied to me? Look, we'll talk about some of that in a little bit later. But Orban's not the problem. The problem is what Orban's going to do is he's going to end immigration into Europe. Okay. And why are the Europeans desperate to bring in an influx of working men? Does anybody know? Does anybody even understand? What's the reason? The reason is the Ponzi scheme. You see, when you vote yourself elements of the public treasury and you get to a point where you keep voting it, the Ponzi scheme, like Social Security is a Ponzi scheme as well, will begin to fall apart. Because in order for a Ponzi scheme to continue, you have to increasingly get people investing into the scheme. You have to broaden the number of people paying into the scheme. When your population stabilizes, however, and you no longer have growth, when you no longer have population growth, the Ponzi scheme begins to fall apart. People start to realize, wait a minute here, where's my money? They begin to run out of other people's money. This is why taxes have been constantly skyrocketing in Europe and why things are going to hell in a handbasket. Because the Ponzi scheme they had all been involved in is coming to an end. And now that you've got a serious threat on your hands, aka Russia, and I want people to understand that Russia is a serious threat to Europe right now. Now, I don't personally think, all right, that Vladimir Putin, all right, is a megalomaniac, all right, intent on world conquest. Yet. Okay? I don't think he's that person yet. What he is, however, is a Russian patriot, all right, who believes in bringing back the Russian Empire. He does. Okay? The Ukraine, us sitting up there going, wow, we have internationally recognized borders for the Ukraine. They were drawn just like the UN flipping draws everything with a bunch of nonsensical attitudes around things. And everywhere the UN has gone in there and drawn arbitrary borders, lo and behold, it all falls apart like a house of flipping cards. Time for a little fan service. Time for a little fan service, folks. Little fan service. Little fan service. Little Jensen fan service. Little Jensen fan service. All right, let's get back to some news. Isolated Macaroon braces for French voters. Revenge! Revenge! I say revenge! Emmanuel Macaroon, all right, has taken many risks in his political career, marked by countless crises. But his decision to call snap election may have been one too many, marring his legacy and ushering in an era of extremes. The tremors from Macaroon dissolving the National Assembly after his centrist party suffered a drubbing in European polls remain strong, with even figures close to the president acknowledging unease over the political turmoil. It was the president who killed presidential majority, said former Prime Minister Felipe, all right, an ally of Macaroon. He's not an ally of Macaroon. He's a frickin' traitorous asshat. Okay? He is not an ally of Macron. Okay? The far right nationalist rally, RN, is tipped to win, potentially giving the party of Macaroon's longtime rival, Marine Le Pen, the post of prime minister for the first time in a tense cohabitation. Macaroon's popularity has sunk to the extent that allies suggested he take a backseat in the campaign, with Prime Minister Gabriel Attal leading the way. For one of Macron's local or most loyal supporters, some of the resentment stems from his unexpected rise to the presidency. There is a desire for revenge on part of politicians who resent his success, said Francois Paré, all right, the head of the pro-Macaroon deputies in the upper house of the Senate. Okay, that's just I don't deny that that's a possibility. But that tells you they are more annoyed with Macaroon, all right, who is not a centrist, though. Okay. Now, I abuse the name and call him Macaroon instead of Macron because I have no respect for him. He's not a principled leader. And that's why I have no respect for him. He's not a principal. I have more respect for Putin, right? Not because he's a better, a better person than Macaroon, okay? Because he's not. But he's got a core principle, and the core principle is Russia über alles. That is and has been Putin's primary driving factor. Okay? He has a principle. I don't like his principle. I think his principle is disastrous for the people of Russia, but he has a principle, and he stands behind it. And he's unapologetically standing behind it. Macaroon's only frickin' principle is to, how can I get more power for myself? And he saw the EU as a way of gaining that kind of power, especially after Britain said, nope, we're nooping out of this. After they noped out, Macaroon said, "This is my chance. I can become the leader of Europe. I will be lauded, and I will sit up there and use this in my own personal power play." And he got rid. People forget this. He got rid of his major competitor, right? Angela Merkel. She's gone. So with my Angela Merkel going on, he was the one who thought he was going to control the entire European Union and bolster it to sit up there and say, okay, it's just another extension of France. But Europe is a failed state. As a bloc, as an economic bloc, all right, it can somewhat succeed. As a nation state, Europe will never be a nation state unless it attempts to understand, all right, how America was put together, which none of them do. At its limits, Mexico's buckling grid threatens nearshoring. A booming economy and extreme temperatures are pushing power grids to the brink across Mexico, a crisis growing worse with each new industrial park and warehouse. Unless incoming President Claudia Sheinbaum and Luis Elena Gonzalez, her new appointed energy minister, can do something about it, the excitement over Mexico's nearshoring boom is headed for a reality check. Many manufacturers want to locate factories closer to the United States to reduce their dependence on China, but only if there's enough electricity. Already during a longer than usual dry season, the country has experienced widespread blackouts. Scheinbaum, a climate scientist with a PhD in energy engineering, has pledged 13.6 billion in energy investment and said she sees a role for the private sector as a minority partner in expanding wind, solar generation, and modernizing hydroelectric stations. She has also pledged to add gas burning power plants and invest in transit and port infrastructure, according to a recent speech before Mexico's Chamber of Business Executives. Even if Scheinbaum invested all that money in a month or a year, all right, it will never be enough, said Claudia Estevez, the executive director of Mexico's Association of Private Industrial Parks. Everyone is suffering in some way from a single problem, which is the lack of investment in energy distribution and transmission to ensure a steady supply of quality electricity. If you think if you think wind and solar are the way to go and you could solve the world's economic climate change, all right, you put somebody in charge of the energy sector who thinks she's going to raise energy by increasing solar and wind power. You people are fools. You have increasing demands for electricity. Those demands are not going to go away. Crappy Chinesium will flood the domestic markets, which is another issue. All right. The problem continues because unless you modernize the power grid, and this is true of the United States, unless you modernize the power grid, and anybody who thinks that that means solar and wind power, you're an idiot. Okay? You're a dingleberry if you think solar and wind power are going to power, okay, the next generation of energy. There's only one solution, okay, and that is nuclear. I know a lot of people don't like this. I know a lot of people bitch and whine about this, and a lot of people are terrified of it. But nuclear power is the only method guaranteed, right, to provide what is necessary. You can argue, you can bitch, you can whine, you can do whatever the hell you want. It will not change the fact. Oh, yes, they do. Probably go to Oregon or something. If you think CO2 is a huge problem, you failed the fifth grade science. On to the next story. Like I said, I got lots of stories today. From France's AFP, 5 ISIS bombs found hidden in iconic Iraq mosque, says a UN agency. The United Nations agency said it discovered 5 bombs in a wall of Mosul's iconic Al Nuriya Mosque planted years ago by the Islamic State group jihadists during the restoration work in the northern Iraqi city. 5 large-scale explosive devices designed to trigger a massive destruction of the site were found in the southern wall of the prayer hall on Tuesday by UNESCO working team at the site, a representative for the agency told the AFP on Friday. Mosul's Al Nura Mosque and the adjacent leaning minaret, nicknamed Al Hadba, or the Hunchback, which dates back to the 12th century, were destroyed during the battle to retake the city from ISIS. Iraq's army accused ISIS, which occupied Mosul for 3 years, of planting explosives at the site and blowing it up. UNESCO, the UN cultural agency, has been working to restore the mosque and other architectural heritage sites in the city, much of it reduced to rubble in the battle to retake in 2017. The Iraqi armed forces immediately secured the area and the situation is now fully under control, said UNESCO. 1 bomb was removed, but 4 other 1.5 kilogram, 3.3 pound devices remain connected to each other and are expected to be cleared in the coming days. And yet, we drew big red freaking circles, kilometer diameter circles, around mosques in an effort to show cultural sensitivity when we invaded Iraq. Because our leadership, both political and military, are morons. I have said this many times, and I'll continue to say it. Our leadership that we have is reliant upon morons in the State Department. They let the State Department run the military. And the State Department is the biggest anti-American part of the United States government. It's not the only one, but it's the largest, and it's the one that we need to really go in there and have a major redressing. And if Trump wins re-election, if he does not put somebody in the State Department that gets rid of 90 and 95% of the people that are there, then he's making a mistake. And I don't think that he will, to be honest. I think they're too scared of that. I personally would fire every single one of them. Because they don't understand. They think that they run U.S. diplomacy. They think they are U.S. diplomacy. They fail to understand that it's the president that decides U.S. foreign policy. All right, let's talk about the United States since we're getting into that direction anyway. This is from Monsieur Thomas Friedman from the New York Times, is where the news got this from. Joe Biden is a good man and a good president. He must bow out of the race. I watched the Trump Biden debate alone in a Lisbon hotel room, and it made me weep. I cannot remember a more heartbreaking moment in American presidential campaign politics in my lifetime, precisely because of what it revealed. Joe Biden, a good man and a good president, right, has no business running for re-election. And Donald Trump, a malicious man and a petty president, has learned nothing and forgotten nothing. He is the same fire hose of lies that he always was, obsessed with grievances, nowhere close to what it will take for America to lead the 21st century. Thomas Friedman is a leftist asshole. Tell me, Thomas, since he's such a good friend, why did he sell out America? Why did Hunter Biden? Why was Hunter Biden's laptop? Why did he sit up there and order, all right, Americans who said, hey, wait a minute here, all right, we need to find this. Why did he try to silence Americans, all right, from telling the truth? Why was that? Well, Thomas, because you don't believe in the freedom of the press either. In fact, you were all for it. Thomas Friedman is a disgrace as a journalist. Joe Biden has been and continues to be one of the most disgraceful men ever to serve as in public office, let alone the presidency. He is absolutely corrupt at his core and always has been. I honestly didn't hear any mice. Okay, let me tell you something right now. The problem that the left has, James, I don't disagree with you, TM. All right, but here's the problem that the left has. They have told their lies to themselves so long that they actually believe the lies. The reason that Friedman and the rest of these jackasses are so angry, and I mean absolutely livid, at Jake Tapper, right? And Dana Bash, or however you say your friggin' name, right, is because they wanted Trump, or they wanted those two to attack Trump on his quote-unquote lies. The problem that they have is that they fail to understand they're lying about them. This is why as soon as they said, well, this was a Trump lie, they were being debunked real time. And Trump knew it. The reason Dana Bash and Jake Tapper didn't do that is they didn't want to expose themselves to be the liars that they've always been when it comes to Trump. The problem was they had to settle for the big lie about who Biden has been and has for that they've been spewing to the public, and everybody witnessed it. And it wasn't just them getting exposed. It was everybody who kept talking about how great a man Biden was, and he's just sharp as ever. All right, he is on it. Everyone tells me he's ready to go full bore. Just like Joe Boy, little Joey Scarborough, who talked to everybody and told him how great and how healthy and robust that Biden was, and less than a month later, you witnessed that. A man doddering, confused, mumbling, couldn't complete a frickin' coherent sentence the entire 90 minutes. And Dana and Jake kept interrupting him because they had to stop him because he was going off the rails left and right. They were trying to do everything they could to prevent him from going further down rabbit holes that they couldn't bring him back from. And he got slammed. But you know what they didn't go into? They didn't want people to know just how much more they've been lying about how corrupt that son of a bitch has been. And how corrupt they are because they've been a part of it. Just like Thomas Friedman, all right? He's been a part of this. He's on the cake by these leftist assholes. People have to understand this. This is why they're terrified. Instead, what they try to do is come up with things like this from the Politico. We are confusing conservatism with anger and hate. Utah Governor Spencer Cox doesn't want political opponents to hate each other. It's nearly impossible to find a Republican politician who can stand against Donald Trump and still hold on to their political viability. But one, perhaps only one, is Utah Governor Spencer Cox. A longtime Trump skeptic, Cox sat for an interview with Playbook Deep Dive podcast after cruising to victory against far-right challenger in this week's GOP primary in deep red Utah that puts him clearly on track to win the second term in November. But the 48-year-old governor is not like some other never-Trumpers. He actually finds fault with different factions in the GOP, and there is the problem. You see, this jackass is surrounded by like-minded individuals and has no understanding of what the rest of us who don't live in GOP la-la land have to put up with on a day-to-day basis. And the one thing that this flaming flippin' fool does not understand is if he tried to run on a national ticket, how much hatred and vitriol for him would come spewing out of the woodwork. He's another McCainite who thinks, oh, I can get along with these people who hate their guts, who are nice to them to their face, and as soon as they turn their back, they do everything underhanded to sit up there and hamstring them. Oh, you got to be nice to these people. No, you can't be nice anymore. And the main reason is this flipping fool fails to understand is there is no honesty. And this guy isn't honest either. Regarding Trump-aligned populists, Cox said, we are confusing conservatism with anger and hate and polarization. No, they're not. When asked about Trump critics like GOP Representatives Liz Cheney and Edmund Kinzinger, he expressed heavy reservations. I don't know that they're changing anybody's mind. No, they're not changing anybody's mind because they were flipping lying sacks of shit, and it was proven. Cox has built a growing profile outside of Utah. Really? No, you're going to try to butter him up. You're going to try to Politico is going to try to create this guy. Okay, to put him out, to push him up, to push him forward, right? That's what the press is going to do. They're going to try to make him into something that he isn't. And what he's going to find is when the press makes you, the press can destroy you. This is the problem they have with Trump, is they didn't make Trump. That's why the press has a problem dealing with the people who like Trump. And I have said this many times. I'm not a huge fan of President Trump. I don't like that kind of personality type. I find it grating. I find it unnecessary on a personal level. Policy-wise, Trump's okay. Is he great? No! There are things I disagree with Trump about. And I haven't been shy because Trump isn't a conservative. He's pro-American, but he's not a conservative. So nobody's confusing conservatism with hatred and rage or anger. Cox doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. You had vile words being spewed by Liz Cheney. You have vile words by Kinzinger, all right, constantly. Dishonest people at their core. He's a dishonest man at his core, Kinzinger. Liz Cheney is dishonest at her core. Her core is power. Her core is not conservative. And it's not honesty either. I don't think that Trump did a horrible job, okay, James, but he didn't do as good a job as he could have. He needed to go in and understand he had to go in there and clean out the executive branch. He failed to do that. You have to understand that. He failed to do that. Trump could have, but he failed. Peter Thiel says, if you hold a gun to my head, I'll vote for Trump, though he isn't backing a campaign. Peter Thiel, once one of Donald Trump's major financial backers in the tech industry, said Thursday that even though he's not providing money to the Republican presumptive nominee's campaign this time around, he'd vote for him over President Joe Biden. If you hold a gun to my head, I'll vote for Trump. Thiel said in an interview on stage in the Aspen Ideas Festival, I'm not going to give any money to his super PAC. Thiel donated $1.2 million to Trump's campaign in 2016 at a time when the vast majority of tech money was going to Democratic rival Hillary Clinton. Thiel, best known for an early bet on Facebook and for co-founding Palantir, right, also spoke at the Republican National Convention that year and after the election helped organize a meeting between Trump and top executives of Amazon, Apple, Google, and Tesla, and several other giant tech companies. However, Thiel later soured on Trump and said last year that he wouldn't be funding any politician in the 2024 presidential campaign. That's after he spent $32 million on a Republican candidates in the 2022 midterm election with mixed results. This guy wants to be a party player, and he found out that he couldn't buy his way into anything. Okay? But I guarantee you, this guy is not, he's not needed. For him to sit up and say, well, I'm not giving to Trump. Okay. How much did you give to the DNC? See, they talk about he gave $1.2 million to Trump during 2016. How much did he give to the Hillary campaign? Because I'll bet money if you sit up there and did a dive, you would find out that somebody associated with him or his group handed her just about as much. He was hedging his bets, just like all of them do. From China, how did China look at things? Reinvestigation unmasking deep-rooted flaws in the U.S. democracy. Though a work of fiction, the 2024 dystopian Civil War resonates unsettling with Americans' real anxieties over escalating political and social polarization facing their country. The film depicts a harrowing scenario where 19 states secede from the Union. The Lincoln Memorial is blown to pieces and the White House falls. The New York Times said it reflects the bipartisan sense of unease and has permeated American politics. The fear of political violence and chaos has long gripped Americans. Back in August in 2022, an economist slash YouGov poll showed that over 40% of surveyed Americans believed a civil war was likely in the next decade. Hey, I am one of them. Okay? Having captured American discourse, the scenario of civil war exposes an increasing division and flaws in the American democratic system. All right? Early this year, the southern U.S. state of Texas, which in the movie unites with California to overthrow the president, that will never happen. Okay? California and Texas are not going to unite in an effort to overthrow the presidency. All right. More than 20 Republican led states openly opposed the federal government, reviving memories of America's Civil War. Texas Governor Greg Abbott was has lambasted the White House over illegal border crossings, which he described as an invasion, claiming the state has the right to self-defense due to what he sees as President Joe Biden's failure, all right, to secure the U.S. border. However, Texan Democrats view it as another political maneuver to exploit the immigration issue. They're not saying that anymore. Okay? Democrats aren't saying it's another freaking political maneuver. They're not saying that anymore, jackass. And the reason is because when Abbott started shipping these sons of bitches around and getting these freaking illegal aliens here, you want them in California? You got them in California. You want them in LA? You got them in LA. You want them in Chicago? You got them in Chicago. Oh, New York, we'll take them all. Okay, you got them. They've only started the bitching on it. And if people are like, what the hell is going on? And believe it or not, Illinois, which has been one of the most corrupt states in the country, is having a come to Jesus moment now. And I'm just laughing. Here in Arizona, I'm just laughing my ass off. Because it was a matter of time. It was a matter of time, folks. Look what happened when they started shipping these people, all right, these illegal aliens, closer to the Canadian border. Did you see how Canada responded? Because it got out of control for them overnight. It's going to get ugly if Trump wins, because Trump is serious about one thing, and that is removing illegal aliens and deporting them. And right now, the mood in the country is to do just that. Then there will be leftists that are going to try to prevent it from happening, and that's where the flashpoints are going to begin. From the NBC News. Supreme Court rules for January 6th rioter challenging the obstruction charge. The Supreme Court on Friday ruled in favor of a former police officer who is seeking to throw out an obstruction charge for joining the Capitol riot on January 6th in 2021. Okay? The justices, in a 6-3 vote on non-ideological lines, handed a win to defendant Joseph Fisher, who is among hundreds of the January 6th defendants, including former President Donald Trump, who have been charged with obstructing an official proceeding over the effort to prevent Congress's certification of President Joe Biden's election victory. The court concluded that the law, enacted in 2002 as part of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, after the Enron accounting scandal was only intended to apply to a more limited circumstances involving forms of evidence tampering, not the much broader array of situations that the prosecutors claimed it covered. The provision targets anyone who obstructs, influences, or impedes any official proceeding or attempts to do so, but the court determined that its scope is limited to a preceding sentence in the statute referring to altering or destroying records. The court sent the case back to lower courts for further proceedings on whether the Justice Department could still prosecute Fisher under the new interpretation of the law. The answer is they can't. Attorney General Merrick Garland said in a statement he was disappointed by the decision because of the impact it would have on the Justice Department's January 6 cases, which they're still going through the court, right? Although he stressed it would not affect the bulk of them. Yes, it will. Of the federal cases, it definitely is going to have an effect. And a profound effect. And everybody knows it. But even more than just this one, is this one. What it means to throw out the Chevron decision undercutting federal regulators. Meritless garlic. Garlic breath. I'll start calling him garlic breath from now on. That's actually a good one. I kind of like that one. Yeah. Executive branch agencies will likely have more difficulty regulating the environment, public health, workplace safety, and other issues under a far-reaching decision by the Supreme Court in a 6-3 ruling, all right, on Friday overturned the 1984 decision colloquially known as Chevron that has instructed lower courts to defer to federal agencies when laws passed by Congress are not crystal clear. The 40-year-old decision that has been the basis for upholding thousands of regulations by dozens of federal agencies has long been a target of conservatives and business groups, which argues it grants too much power to the executive branch because it does, or what some critics called the administrative state. The Biden administration defended the law, right, warning that overturning the so-called Chevron defense would have a destabilizing and could bring concussive shock to the nation's legal system. It needs it. Finally, Justice Roberts, and I'm one of his biggest critics, finally said something that's flat out true. All right? Justice Roberts, writing for the court, said federal judges must exercise their independent judgment in deciding whether an agency has acted within its statutory authority. The ruling does not call into question prior cases that relied upon the Chevron doctrine Roberts wrote, in which case he's wrong. All right? But here's a look at the court decisions. All right? It throws them out because people are going to come back and say, fine, let's play this game. They're going to go into this now, and people have finally figured out that the problem has been for a long time is that you've got faceless bureaucrats making decisions, and they have told the courts, oh no, if the faceless bureaucrat tells you this, then you have to listen to what they say the law actually means. And it didn't make sense. If Congress doesn't like a law, it's got to do its freaking job, which is oversight of the administration, not turning around and going, no, we don't need it. We created them. We don't need any oversight at all. And their left is absolutely furious. They are out of their friggin' minds angry at this. Because they know that's how they've enacted things. It has been, I'm going to run to Joe Blow over there in that I know in the Department of Labor and Health, or the Department of Labor Relations, or the Department of HUD, right? In order to go into this kind of stuff. And what's the surprise? Surprise, surprise. Now you're going to have a problem. Because he can't sit up there and just a faceless bureaucrat can't make a decision, write an opinion, and have it be turned into law. Which is what they've been doing for a long, long time. It's one of the best decisions they ever could come up with. And then you have this kind of crap. Jack Smith reveals an avalanche of evidence against Donald Trump. Special counsel Jack Smith's team has submitted dozens of examples as to why Trump should have a gag order imposed on him for the classified documents case. In the June 26 court filings, federal prosecutor compiled all the exhibits in support of their argument for Judge Aileen Cannon, to set a gag order on President Trump to prevent the Republican from making public statements which could pose a threat to law enforcement officials. Cannon, who is overseeing the federal classified document case, has held 2 hearings on whether to impose a partial gag order on Trump amid the trial proceedings. Trump has pleaded not guilty to over 40 charges of allegations he illegally retained classified materials after he left office on January of 2021 and then obstructed federal officials to retrieve them. The gag order request from the government arrived after Trump falsely declared that President Joe Biden ordered the FBI to use deadly force, during this. Now, here's the thing. He said, Trump stood up there and declared that this. All right, what exactly did Trump say? No, he stood up there and said that there was writing in there, in the email when the FBI said, had locked and loaded, ready to take me out. The deadly force phrase in the FBI search warrant is instead a standard line to include for such documents while laying out the protocols for the search operations. Smith teams argues that the rhetoric could endanger the lives of law enforcement officials. Prosecutors have now submitted a host of evidence. Well, why did you give that evidence to us? And I'll tell you why. Because there is no evidence. It's a bunch of freaking nonsense. Oh, I'm scared of this, and I'm scared of that. Oh, I have an affidavit from Charles Holland, who works for the Public Safety Department's Judicial Threats Assessment Unit. He previously said, they're out of control. They're going to kill us all. Right? He said that there's 275 single pages worth of transcribed threatening messages and voicemails that have been left for Judge Arthur Engoron, who oversaw the civil fraud trial because he was out of control, and I believe that, there was probably threatening messages. I would love to know which ones were what they're considering a threatening message. You're a piece of shit. Oh, he threatened his life. Oh my God. It's the end of the world. One of the voicemails on Erdogan's office contained the threat
because FanDuel has something for everyone every day, like profit boost, so you can score bigger winnings in any inning. Plus, new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win.
Obviously, it came from somewhere. Stupid crap. This is nonsense, folks, and everybody knows it. We all know it. We all know what this is about. And it's not going to change. We're threatening to remove you permanently from your office. Okay? But no, they're talking about killing him. That's your interpretation of it. Funny how when the left makes comments such as that, oh, no, they weren't threatening our lives. Oh, they weren't threatening our lives. No. We didn't see anything wrong with that. When we were making these kind of comments, when we were leftists talking about how we were going to get rid of Trump, we didn't really mean we were going to kill Trump. We didn't. There was nothing wrong with that, right? FBI, didn't you come back and tell us all that all that was nonsensical? That people were being overreacting to it? Garlic breath. Since we're talking about the degeneracy within the government, Texas man, 60, cops to placing store antiques inside his rear end. A kilt-wearing Texas man. Okay. No, I've walked around Texas for a while. I've been visiting there. I haven't seen people walk around in kilts. Oh my god. A kilt-wearing Texas man today pleaded guilty to taking merchandise from antique stores and shoving the items up his rectum before returning them to display shelves. Oh my god. He copped to criminal mischief in connection with vile incidents earlier this year at shops in Spring, a Houston suburb. As part of the plea deal, the 6'6", 250-pound Vest was sentenced in Harris County Criminal Court to 12 months probation. Since Vest is a first-time offender, if he successfully completes probationary terms, all right, the misdemeanor conviction will be wiped from his record. According to police, Vest visited one store and placed a makeup brush and the restoration hardware piece in his anus before placing them back on the shelf for display. The owner of a second business, the Curiosity Shop, told cops that Vest took an antique bottle opener and a tobacco tent can and placed them in his anus under his green skirt / kilt, all right, and then returned them to the shelf. Both items, the soiled, in both instances, rather, the soiled merchandise valued at a combined $204 had to be thrown away due to feces being on them. All right, this guy needs to be taken and deposited in a sanitarium because he's obviously got mental health issues, folks. The guy has mental health issues. From Kyoto News, let's go around the world some more. Tragic story of young nurses' fate in the Battle of Okinawa goes overseas. The story of a group of young women who were drafted from high school to the front lines of the Battle of Okinawa as Imperial Japanese Army nurses is being told through a traveling exhibition, with many who tragically died serving as a lesson on the horrors suffered by Japanese civilians in the conflict. The Himiyuri Students Corps, or the Lily Corps, were a group of 222 students and 18 teachers from the Okinawa First Girls High School and the Okinawa Female Normal School, who were ordered by the Japanese Army to serve on the front lines of what is widely considered the bloodiest battle in the World War II's Pacific Theater. Himiyuri Peace Museum in Itoman, a city in Japan's southernmost prefecture, is dedicated to the Hinamori students. It is currently holding an exhibition until the end of June. In the United States state of Hawaii, which has close ties with the prefecture that date back to before the war. Mobilized on March 23rd of 1945, just a week ahead of the full invasion of American forces, the young women were assigned to a military hospital located inside some 40 caves and used as bunkers in the southern part of Okinawa's main island. They were forced to nurse sick and wounded soldiers while under constant bombardment from U.S. forces. The women, aged from 15 to 19, assisted military doctors, surgeons, medics, and nurses, while also being given the perilous task of transporting ammunition and supplies, food, and water to the front lines where artillery shells rained down around them. Part of their detail included burying the dead. As Japan's losses mounted and defeat was clear, the Schoolgirl Corps was given an abrupt order to disband on June 18, 1945, just 5 days before the battle ended. The girls suffered mass casualties as they attempted to escape the battlefield. of a group of 123 girls and 13 students lost their lives. This is out of 222 that were sent and 18 teachers. Dozens of them even after the dissolution order. Many committed suicide using hand grenades, cyanide, or by jumping off the cliffs, all right, above the ocean. I think we need to tell these stories time and time and time again of what the world can be like. Okinawa was a horrific battle. For a lot of reasons. Okinawans feel like they've been abused by everybody. Abused by the Americans, abused by the Japanese, all right? Because they consider themselves somewhat other. And culturally, they are a bit different than the quote unquote people from the mainland. But the fact that they were willing to commit suicide tells you what the mentality of the people were like. They talk about how many died performing heroic acts of trying to take water and food to troops who were, basically starving and so forth on the front lines. And I don't discount that. But they were the enemy. And that's what war is. Too many people, too many young people do not understand what a war is. And you see it playing out on all these college campuses. That these flaming fools have no idea what they're supporting. They're no different than the stupid F-tards that we're dealing with the Vietnam War on college campuses back in the 60s. Same stupid mentality. Same ignorant Fs. Austin Wolf, a popular gay porn star, arrested on charges of child pornography in Manhattan. What a surprise. One of the most well-known LGBTQ adult entertainers is accused of sending and receiving hundreds of videos of child pornography. A popular adult entertainer has been arrested and charged in New York with sending and receiving hundreds of videos of child pornography. James Smith, known by his porn star name as Austin Wolf, is scheduled to appear in a Manhattan federal court on Friday on one count of distribution and receipt of child pornography. One count? He's sending and receiving hundreds of videos, and it's one count. The Southern District of New York, we gotta get Trump. We gotta get Trump. Wow, but a child pornographer, we'll give him one count. According to the Southern District of New York, Smith used Telegram to exchange hundreds of videos with another person whose phone was seized by the FBI. Prosecutors said an undercover FBI agent used the person's Telegram account to chat with Smith. Federal authorities ultimately conducted a search back in April of the 43-year-old porn star's Manhattan apartment, where prosecutors said an SD was recovered containing hundreds of videos of child porn. The videos recovered by the feds allegedly contained children as young as infants. member in good standing of the LGBTQ community. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the fabulous community that does just good work for all of us. They need to be lauded. They need to be celebrated. Meanwhile, a serious incident has taken place, folks. A horrific, horrific incident in South Korea. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a depressed slave robot hurled itself downstairs in a shocking bid to end its life. The South Korean civil service slave cyborg, all right, which was designed to deliver documents, flung itself over a stairwell, apparently to escape the boredom of working for a city council. A depressed slave robot is feared to have committed suicide by hurling itself down a flight of stairs. The civil service cyborg, which looked like a white trash bin, right, with a screen on its side, was designed to deliver documents to residents. But it ended its life by jumping itself over a stairwell in South Korea after it blew a fuse from boredom while slaving away for the Gumi City Council. Witnesses said they found the smashed up after it saw it circling in one spot as if somebody was there. An official from the Gumi Council in the southeast of South Korea said that there was a probe being launched as to the cause of its suicide. It was one of us, staff said. It worked diligently. It was designed to be smart enough to call a lift to move between floors by itself. South Korea has the highest robot density in the world, with one Borg for every 10 employees. The incident comes as Japanese boffins, made a breakthrough in creating self-healing robots, similar to those seen in the Terminator films. Researchers have disclosed a method to attach engineered skin tissue to a humanoid robot. The advancement could lead to robots with enhanced mobility, self-healing abilities, and embedded sensing capabilities and an increasingly lifelike appearance. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You just can't make this stuff up. Maybe I read the documents first. Adobe Photoshop. Well, Adobe's in a lot of hurt. Anyway, tigers in Spain. What a nightmare. Very serious holiday warning as deadly tiger mosquitoes found in 2 Spain hotspots. How to spot the dengue fever carrying bug. Deadly tiger mosquitoes have been found in 2 Spanish hotspots, sparking an urgent holiday warning for Brits headed abroad. Those on the way to sunny Balearic Islands must make sure to know how to spot the dengue-carrying bug. The tiger mosquitoes, which are native to Southeast Asia, appear to have been spreading across Majorca and Minorca. Authorities on both islands have been taking preventive measures to stop the pests from spreading any further, including spraying insecticide from helicopters. The tiger mosquito, scientifically known as Aedes albopictus, I can't pronounce this, is a small dark mosquito with distinct white markings on its legs and a white strip down the center of its back. This mosquito is also commonly referred to as the Asia tiger mosquito due to its origin and striped appearance. Smaller than many other mosquito species, The tiger mosquito is an aggressive daytime biter with peak activity periods in the early morning and late afternoon. It has spread to many parts of the world, including the Americas, Europe, and Africa. It's a mosquito. Mosquitoes carry diseases. I don't think you're going to surprise anybody. Just putting it out there. Okay, just a few more stories, folks. Gassy cows and pigs to be hit by carbon tax in Denmark. In a world first. Denmark will introduce the world's first emissions tax on agriculture from 2030, requiring farmers to pay for greenhouse gases released by their cows, sheep, and pigs. The Danish government said the aim is to lower greenhouse gas emissions by 70% by 2023. By 2030, we will take a big step closer to becoming climate neutral in 2045, Taxation Minister Jeppe Burris said. All right. Burris said he hoped other countries would follow suit and implement a similar tax. Livestock farmers will be taxed $43 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2030. All right. The tax will increase to $108 by 2035. The agreement was reached on Monday between the center-right government and representatives of farmers, industries, and unions. New Zealand passed a similar law, which was set to be implemented in 2025, but was quashed on Wednesday after criticism from farmers. Yeah, I have a feeling that this is going to get quashed as well. Oh my God. From AFP News, Python swallows woman whole in Indonesia. A woman has been found dead inside the belly of a snake after it swallowed her whole in central Indonesia, local officials said. The husband of 45-year-old Farada and residents of the Kelempong village in South Sulawesi province discovered her on Friday inside the stomach of a reticulated python, which measured around 16 feet. The mother of four had gone missing Thursday night and failed to return home, forcing a search effort. Village head Sardi Orosi told AFP her husband found her belongings, which made him suspicious. The villagers then searched the area and soon spotted the python with a large belly. They agreed to cut open the python's stomach. As soon as they did, Farada's head was immediately visible. Farada was still fully clothed inside of the snake. Such incidents are considered extremely rare, but several people have died in Indonesia in recent years after being swallowed whole by pythons. I'm just saying that, nature has a way of rearing its ugly head. All right? And, I mean, people have poo-pooed that snakes are dangerous to humans for a long time unless they were poisonous. All right, that pythons are not dangerous, and we have a problem with Burmese pythons right now. All right, in the Florida Everglades, where they're having a problem because the population has exploded down there to the point where it's attacking alligators, and not the 2-inch alligators that just hatched. They're getting 4 and 5 foot alligators that they've been swallowing whole after a fight. So these things are becoming more and more aggressive. Now, Florida has done what it can to try and put a stop to it, but quite frankly, it's a long road to hoe. Okay. Final story of the day. It's a good story. Giant pandas Yu Chuan and Zhenbao arrived safely at the San Diego Zoo. The San Diego Zoo announced the safe arrival of Yu Chuan and Zhenbao, the first giant pandas to enter the country in 21 years. The zoo said that the pandas arrived safe and sound on Friday after taking the long flight from China. They will spend the next several weeks acclimating to their new home in a private habitat at the San Diego Zoo and will not be viewable to the public during this time, the zoo said in a statement provided to UPI. Pandas will make their public debut once they have been cleared to do so by the zoo's wildlife health and care teams, the statement said. The pandas are the first to enter the United States in 21 years. They departed China after being honored at a ceremony at the China Conservation and Research Center for Giant Pandas in the Sichuan province. The farewell ceremony was attended by San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance president and CEO Paul Baribault, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, all right, and various other dignitaries from the United States and China. We are incredibly excited to welcome Yun Chuan and Xing Bao to the San Diego Zoo, Baribault said in a news release. This farewell celebrates their journey and underscores the collaboration between the United States and China on vital conservation efforts. Our long-standing partnership with China Wildlife Conservation Association has been instrumental in advancing giant panda conservation, and we look forward to continuing our work together to ensure the survival and thriving of this iconic species. Now, everybody loves pandas, all right? Let's be perfectly frank. Right? Everybody loves pandas, okay? Um, these are pretty things. All right, they are an interesting animal. They are unique. They are ubiquitous. They eat plants. They have claws. They can defend themselves. They are also marsupials. Right? Most people don't realize that. Right? They do eat bamboo, as you see this one munching away on it. They eat a lot of it. All right, which is one of the reasons why their bellies are so big. Well, because they are a type of plant eaters, and to digest plant matter is not an easy thing for any species to do, which is why you see ruminants like cows and so forth. All right, having similar type of extended bellies from time to time. Right, just putting it out there. Now, the conservation efforts that they have is because the pandas evolutionary cycle, right, what they've evolved into, they have now put themselves in a very similar situation as koala bears. Okay. And while I have nothing against trying to save this species, nature has determined that they're on their way out, folks. It's sad, but it's true. You're not going to be able to save every species on the planet. And I really wish people would get it through their heads that, I have no problems with the effort to try. Okay, if you want to sit up there and give money to try and save the giant panda, more power to you. I doubt you're going to succeed, but more power to you. I have no problem with that. But you can't blame mankind. You can't go in there, oh, their habitats are shrinking because of mankind, and that's why they're all... No, they're on their way out evolutionary because they have specialized to the point of their own extinction. No species which specializes survives because eventually what they've specialized to consume changes or disappears. Same thing with the koalas. Okay, I like the way koalas look. They're cute. They look cute. They're not, but they look cute, right? But eucalyptus, seen as they only eat eucalyptus, they have specialized to the point where they won't even eat other eucalyptus in some cases, trees from other eucalyptic trees. So, as a species, they are slowly dying out. It's unfortunate, but that's the way life is on the planet. All right, everybody. Hope you all have a good day. It's time for me to go back to my regular lifetime. Hope that you all enjoy things and have a good day, everybody. Talk to you all later. Bye bye.